Hey fellas, and welcome back to another NRL Fantasy Fanatics YouTube video. And tonight we've got a quickfire buy, hold, sell for you on the Wednesday night, prepping for tomorrow. Got a big week coming up. I'm a bit stuck with my trades personally. There's a lot to move on and a lot of people to bring in. And no Will tonight again. He's having the time of his life in India at the moment. And yeah, we'll be back next week, but you've got me tonight. So let's crack right into it. First up, probably one of the buys of the week. We got David Fifita here coming in at 668k with a break even of 23 and the score of 96, I think, 92 last week. And he was an absolute weapon last week, just doing it easily. Try assist, line break assist, 25 tackles and 10 tackle busts with 8 offloads. Absolutely nuts. Um, Look, he's probably the buy of the week, and he's an easy flick on. If you left money in the bank, he's an easy flick on from Seyfarth, or who else is there? Maybe even a Fisher Harris if you own him. He's just so underpriced for what he can do. The only thing that worries me is Haas on the bench potentially might take his minutes. Hopefully, what they do is move Beau Fermor back to centre, and then Haas gets a start, and then Fifita can play that 70 plus minute role like we saw last week. But that's my only concern with him. He's got a decent buy schedule coming up. I think he misses 12 and I think it's 18. But hopefully there's still prospects of him getting selected for Origin, which does lessen the appeal a little bit. But look, you still got about 6 rounds until Origin even kicks off or the camp kicks off, and I'm going to take that risk on him personally, especially at this lowered price. So he's our first buy of the week. Second one here, we got Dylan Egan. Named on the bench this week, but that doesn't really deter me at all. Break even negative 17. But if you have the coach on NRL app, it's actually negative 21, which means all he needs is about 35 to 40 points to go up about 70k, which is absolutely nuts. As you can see here, the games where he has come off the bench, he's been getting around 50 minutes and seeing around 45 points, which is nuts. That's all he needs. He's going to make so much cash. He's probably going to sit around 500, high 500k mark when he's done. And yeah, just get him in. Good buy schedule. Misses 12 and then doesn't, misses, what's that? 13, 14, misses 16 as well, and then plays the rest. So he's that one that you can even start at your edge if you want. He'll probably consistently pump out that 40 to 50 point range. And they might even swap in with Luciano Leilua again like they did last week, which would be great. And then you can get that big minute roll, which you can see scores a 60 plus like you saw last week. So he is our second buy of the week. And moving on, Jayden Campbell at 780k, still a lowish break even for what he can produce. And coming off a score last week of 76 with no real attacking stats at all other than the 10 tackle busts. He's got 1 offload and no try assist, no line break or a line break assist, just the 10 tackle busts, which is nuts. The fact that he can produce that with no real attacking stats is great. And as you can see here, got a bit lucky with the tries, but take those tries away. In this game, he's still scoring about 70 points, and in this one, he's probably getting mid 50s, which you're going to take every day. If you want a half, I think Jayden Campbell's your man, especially a gun half. He's got the half wing fullback duel as well. If you want to potentially antipod Cleary, and because Campbell won't be playing Origin, if you want to antipod Cleary, and if you don't own Cleary or Campbell, I reckon Campbell's a better bring in, to be quite honest. Still got a bit of money to make, and he's really the shining light in that struggling Titans team at the moment. So he's another great buy in our eyes. Next one here, we got Hugo Savala coming in at base price of 230k. His break even was around 70 last week or 60 last week, and he came out with the 33 against the Broncos with no attacking stats and 3 missed tackles. So we could have easily seen scores of around 40-ish, which you're going to take every day for a base price cheapie. Got Penrith this week, and last year, if you asked me about Penrith, I'd say it'd be a hard fixture, but this year you just don't know what to expect from them. I honestly expect the Roosters to win this game, and Savala will play a decent part in it, having almost 500 kick meters last week. I expect that to continue, and Sandon Smith, um, won't be as dominant, and I think Hugo Savala will do most of it. And with the break even at 20, all he needs is a score of around 35 to 40 in the next few weeks, and he's going to start making you some good coin. The only problem is most of you already have 3 to 5 Roosters players in your team, and getting another one's probably not reasonable due to their atrocious buy schedule coming up. But if you move on, maybe 2 Roosters players or 3 Roosters players like a Watson, maybe a White and a Smith, you can afford to bring Savala in, who's probably the best cheapie of the week, like real cheapie. Egan's obviously good too, but if you want a base price cheapie under 250k, he's the only one. So if you want a really good cash down option to maybe upgrade one of your mid players to a gun, I think Hugo Savala is your man. Moving on, first hold of the week. Maybe a controversial one depending how you look at it. Payne Haas coming in at 934k, break even at 94, which really isn't great for him, coming off 2 scores, 42 and 58. Look, I myself don't know what to do with Payne Haas. As you can see, his first 4 games of the year, 81, 85, 106, and 67. The big difference between these and his last two, minus the try, he was offloading so much more in the first 4 games. You see 4, 7, 5, and then he's gone 2 and 2, which is a bit of an issue. I don't know if Madge has told him to not stop offloading or what, but it's really hurting his fantasy output. Running meters gains rather the same. It's just the offloads that's hurting him. If you can go back to that 5 offloads, that's an extra 20 points. Which, look, if he gets a few more offloads here, that's a 62, and that could potentially be a 75 to 80 point range. So that's my main reason for holding Haas. If you're worried about cash generation for him, or if he's going to lose too much cash, I'd argue that for a player like Payne Haas, you're not really worried about if he's going to make or lose cash. You're just worried about the points output, which when he gets 70 minutes, typically throughout his career, he's going to score around 70 points. It just seems to be a low one there. I'm personally going to hold him, but if you don't want that much money just sitting there in hope, he can honestly be a sell as well. He'll be playing Origin and buy schedule isn't great. So either or, personally, I'm holding just because I know what he can do. But we'll move on. Matty Nicholson here, 655k. We've got him as a hold as well. With Hosking rejoining the squad onto the bench, you may think it's probably a bad thing for Nicholson, and I'd agree in the long run. But for this week, I'd say they're going to ease Hosking in, and I think Nicholson will see this similar minutes range of 60 to 70, maybe not 70. I'd say 60 to 65 is what he's looking at this week. And with a score of 48 last week was a try. He does find the try line quite often, which is good for him. And decent PPM from the minutes he's going to get this week, I reckon 60 to 65. I can see him scoring anywhere from 40 to 45, which is higher than his break even. So personally, I think it's a very luxury trade, getting rid of Manny Nicholson. And you can definitely afford to hold him for one more week just to see what the rotation will be like with Hosking off the bench. So I think there's definitely much more priority trades this week, and Nicholson's definitely not one of them. So I'd hold for another week. Moving on here to our last hold, Ponga, probably a controversial one as well. He's had a stinking last 3 games. He started off 62-82 and he's backed up with 320s in a row due to the fact that the Knights have been held scoreless in their last 2 games and then they got flogged against the Titans in round 3. So this is an interesting one. As you can see, running meters have been way down. Kick meters doesn't really affect him. What what else? It's just obviously here we go. 3 try assists, 1 try assist, 2 line breaks, and then all the line break assists. And now he's gone no try assists in his last 2 games and no line breaks either, which is really hurting him. It just goes to show what happens, like we said in preseason. When the Knights aren't scoring well, we just knew that Ponga wouldn't score well. But that's the risk in picking him up. The Knights were doing well in their first 2 games and they've fallen off the face of the planet, which is a bit of a shame. But This week against the Sharks could be an interesting one for Ponga. He could, I do expect a bounce back game coming for him soon. And with Warriors, Rabbits, Gold Coast, and Parrot in his next four, I do think you can benefit in holding him. I do see some big scores coming here, even if maybe Cronulla's obviously not the best game for him. I still think any try the night score, he's going to be in and around it. And I do think he can bag a try assist or a line break or anything like that, even a try. So I can see him scoring 40 plus this week against the tough Sharks. The only reason I'd be holding him is due to those next four rounds. Even Penrith and St. George, great next six games, and I can see him scoring big in a few of those. So I do think Ponga's a hold, but if you really want to get rid of him and replace him with a cheaper wing fullback and then upgrade elsewhere, that's really up to you. It's user's choice, but I'd say he's a hold. Moving on here, we got our first sell of the week. Jermaine Hopgood coming in at 682k, break even of around 70 and just not getting the minutes we need so far from him. Started off the season well, and from round three, it's just been on a slow decrease. 56, 57, 54, and a 47-minute game starting at lock, which is not great. It's not what you want from him. And his career PPM's never been around one. It's mainly been around zero point 0.9 to 0.95, which means for Hopgood to score exceptionally well, he needs around that 60-minute roll to 65-minute roll, and 47 is just not going to do it for him. So this is probably the last week you can own him because round five you'd say, oh, I'll see one more week, see what his minutes are like, and then he backs up with a 47. So I think it's time to move Hopgood on, especially with the mid and edge options this week, like Egan from major cash down or Fifita just a straight swap to Fifita. There's just so many options. You can't afford to have Hopgood laying around. So here's our first sell of the week. Moving on, Alex Seyfarth, second sell, similar to Hopgood here, even though minutes aren't related, it's just a scoring output for him. Break even around 50, and he's averaging 40 this year with the two big scores of 56 and 60. He's a clear sell in our eyes. I couldn't imagine a scenario where you'd be holding him, especially when if you bank some cash, you can easily go Alex Seyfarth to Fifita, which I'd say is one of the trades of the week just coming off two games where he's just not getting involved. A 30 point and a 28 pointer, just nothing attacking. Tackles are okay, just the misses are creeping up there. Errors as well, and just not running the ball. He's just really not having an impact in the Tigers' gameplay at the moment, which is why he's probably one of the sells of the week, especially at 7.2% owned and dropping. He was around 10 before this round. I can see him becoming around 4 to 5, and anyone who owns him, including myself, I am. That's the last week I'm selling. I'm holding him, so big sell there, Alex Seyfarth. Moving on, our last sell of a week. This is an interesting one. He's been listed, Beau Fermor. He's been listed to start at edge this week, which he was last week as well, and the week before, and then got moved to center both times. I am worried that will happen again, but their lineup has changed with Fifita coming into a starting role. Maybe what they'll do is they'll move Beau Fermor back to centres, then Cleese Haas gets another starting role. But just the thought of Fermor playing centre again, just lingering in the back of your head, really turns you off a bit, especially with that around 80 break even. And look at those scores at centre, 20 and 30. And then even his scores at second row, you've got 70, which was great, just purely off base stats there. And then you got a 61 with a try and then a 50 at second row, which relatively for a guy like Beau Fermor isn't great. If you take away that try and the seven tackle busts, he's scoring around 45, which you're not going to take at all. And the 50 as well, just not getting involved really. I think his floor is pretty low, around a 40, and his ceiling's probably around a 70, like you can see up top there. That's why I think he's a sell. Pretty controversial. Not too many people own him anymore. But if you want to give him one more week and just pray he keeps that edge spot, that's no worries. But I'd look to sell, especially when David Fifita, his teammate, is at the same price range. 78 break even just turns you off massively. Um, let's just look here. Who else we got to talk about? Let's look at the who's not and who's hot. We mentioned the top four there. Katoga, still a decent buy. Break even's low, and still getting that starting edge roll in 80 minutes, so good buy as well. Here, Toby Couchman, one who I didn't mention just then, but I will now. Break even of around 29, 692K, still due to make a fair bit of cash. We just look at the season he's having 58, 60, 48, and then back-to-back 69s, which is nuts, especially from 51 minutes, which I don't think he'll see again. He was harboring a bit of an injury last week, which affected his minutes. He came off pretty early. I do expect his minutes to go back to that 60 to 65 role, which means he's going to easily get 65 points as his PPM. He's a PPM beast. So this is a great one, especially if you have Fisher Harris and a bit of cash in the bank, just upgrade Couchman to Harris, or maybe even a Connor Watson straight down to Couchman and then upgrade elsewhere. You can easily find a way to get this guy on your team. Decent buy schedule too. Misses 12 and then misses 16 or 15 as well, and then plays the rest. And I do think his fixtures are pretty welcoming coming up. He's got Manly, then Sydney, Tigers, Warriors, and Broncos before the bye, which minus the Broncos and maybe you'd argue Manly. Those three fixtures are great. And he is a fixture-proof player being a prop. He bases his points mainly off his tackles here, tackle busts and meters gained. So I think he's a great option. Still one of the buys of the week, him and Fifita. And if you need a gun mid who's still going to make money, Couchman's your man. So yeah, that's all we got for you tonight, guys. Just a quick fire buy, hold, sell. And if you, as always, you got any other questions, just leave a comment down below and leave a comment down below and just hit us up on the DMs and we'll get back to everyone. We do every week. And consider joining our private group. We got a lot there, a lot for everyone to enjoy. We've got good ranking players in there and wouldn't want you to miss out. But good luck for tomorrow. Any final questions, just DM us and we'll get back to you. So catch you in the next one, fellas. See ya.